And greetings and welcome to the QCast. This is season 5, episode 21. And we've had a big feature the last week and a half on the Illinois Wesleyan women's basketball team. And why not? 8-0, 2-0 in the league, ranked number 4 in the country. And I'm really honored to have All American Hooper Lauren Huber with me, the 5'8 senior guard from Lombard, Illinois, Glenbard East High School. Uh, Lauren, it's great to see you on the QCast. You were here with that big group last year, which was a blast, but it's really good to get you on here one on one. How's everything going? How you feeling after that big win yesterday in Waukesha?
Good. Season's been going well, obviously. We're into finals week now, so, you know, has been busy, but walked away with a win, which is always good.
Yeah, let's talk about that game yesterday because it was another come from behind win. And these games on the road, like the WashU game and the Carroll game, these are tough games against really good teams. Carroll was picked second in the CCIW preseason poll behind you guys.
Mhm.
You have all kinds of history with them. Obviously, they knocked us out of the conference tournament last year. So you know them well. You know how good they are. You know how talented they are. We get down in the third quarter. We're down at halftime. We're down in the third quarter. What was the thinking kind of around? Let's just take like halftime. I think we're down nine-ish or eight, nine, somewhere in there. What are we thinking at halftime yesterday? And what kind of adjustments did Coach Smith talk to you guys about?
Mhm. So, for those who follow along with our games, oftentimes we struggle with a little bit of a third quarter slump. This time it was the second quarter. It was
Right.
losing possessions on turnovers, not getting any scoring opportunities because of that. So really at halftime, when we were getting our stern talking to, was it's not really X's and O's right here. We just need to play like ourselves. We just need to slow it down, control. Because in the first quarter, we looked good and
Absolutely.
it looked very smooth. We were playing like us. And then that second quarter, we were not. So we talked really just about how to get back to our style of play. And then like getting steals and that, really focusing on converting that to points and definitely rebounding as well.
Yeah, and it was a very different game than WashU because I thought that game you really turned the table based on generating turnovers. That changed the entire game. I thought yesterday was just sort of I thought first of all you did a lot better job of getting good looks on the offensive end. You kept scoring. You played great defense. I don't remember the crazy amount of turnovers that there were in the WashU game, but at the end of the third quarter, let's see, 2:07 left in the third. You're down 56-47, which I mean, I was watching the whole game and I remember thinking, okay, we're starting to be in some trouble here. You know, a
Yeah.
9 point deficit in the final minutes of the third is tough, but you got it down to 5 points by the end of that quarter. So in 2 minutes, you get it down to five. And to me, that felt like, okay, this is doable. Did you feel, Lauren, like the way the third quarter ended helped you as you headed into the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I'd say we definitely were building momentum at that point because, like you said, down however many that late in the game, you're kind of leaving things up to chance with the refs. And,
Right.
you don't know how it'll play out, whether you're the better team or not. Like, we really knew at that point we needed to take care of business and we needed to make every possession count, stops on defense, and then go from there. Wait, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Well, just the end of that quarter, you know, how getting it down to five, how good that made you feel heading into the fourth quarter. Being down five is a lot better than being down 9, 10, 11. It seems like the end of the third was really key.
Yeah, I was going to say too, part of our slump in the second quarter, I think, was oftentimes we get a lot of momentum from our three-point shooting. And I mean, the stat line for that for yesterday's game was 2 out of 18.
Yeah, they were
And
not
I think,
falling.
yeah, I think that's a testament to the growth that our team has had because in the past, we've kind of identified as a three-point shooting team. And it was kind of like live or die on the line. And probably our past team, if we went 2 for 18, we were probably losing that game. But I think
Right.
that really shows the growth we've had and we really do have every game, multiple people, double digits, and not always the same people.
Right.
And I think that Kate Bowman, great addition to our coaching staff. Our coaches have been great at prepping us for the games. And I think everybody going into each game feels prepared. And then it's kind of how the defense decides to play us will dictate who, you know,
Right.
like has a like standout game. It's not necessarily, oh, this person's hot today,
Right.
this person's not. It's more like the defense is deciding to close out on Mal super hard, so now Katie can post up and not get a double. And that's kind of what, not the closing out on threes, because they weren't worried about that yesterday. But Katie did a great job working in the post. And I mean, it was a physical game, especially for the rebounds, but the rest were calling things fair, so not out of hand. But yeah, going into that fourth quarter, we felt more in control and confident in what we had out on the court and that we could get the job done. We knew what we needed to do, and we knew that we didn't need to, step up. We just needed to step into what is normal for us. And
And in
our,
that fourth quarter, I think to your point about the outside shots not falling, we finally got the game tied with 7:50 to go. So in the fourth quarter, things started happening fast. It was tied 58 all with 7:50 to go. And during that stretch and all the way to the end, it was baskets at the mid range and around the basket that were the biggies, right? So there were, I think Katie had a couple big baskets down low.
Mhm.
There were, it felt like there was one or two high lows. Mallory scored down on the right block, I remember.
Yeah,
You scored a couple of your typical mid rangers. Ava had a crazy impressive, like, I don't even know how to describe it, but just quick handles. And then
dipping
like
around.
yeah, like an 18 footer. She had another one when she went to the basket.
Got to
Mallory had
line.
some kind of jump shot from, it wasn't a three, it was like a 15
Yeah,
footer from the right.
short corner.
And it just felt to me like you had so many different people contributing, but I don't remember any of those being a three down the stretch. And so it's exactly what you said. And to the point about balance, I'll just kind of pick that up again. Is I've talked to Kate, I've talked to Ava, I've talked to Coach Smith about how like balanced this team is. And yesterday down the stretch, it felt like you, Ava, Katie, Mallory, you guys seemed to make a lot of big plays where we could point to the Whitewater game. We could point to the Wash U game where other people were making big plays.
Yeah.
Pretty cool that you guys can lean on different people night in and night out based on who's kind of feeling it. Talk a little more about that balance you guys have.
Yeah, obviously something to talk about because it's not really very typical to be able to have that sort of confidence, switch the starting lineup, depending. I just think it makes us kind of put other teams on their heels more
Right.
because we're planning what we're doing and then they have to react to us. Like, I mean, I've said before, it's like an X's and O's nightmare for the other team because you just can't fully guard everyone, but also you need to get a double to people, but then you can't leave people open. So I think as far as balance goes, it's we know we have that, and now we just need to stay within that and not get rushed, limit turnovers,
Right.
and that will, lead to success.
Yeah. And that's a big formula for you guys because you guys generate so many turnovers. And it seems like if you can avoid turnovers yourself, that's a formula that's going to be hard for someone to beat because it's going to lead to us shooting so many more field goals than the opponents. I thought yesterday when we got in trouble, I thought that we were a little careless with the ball for a stretch of time there. Just some passes that weren't getting where they were supposed to go. Early in the game, I guess it was the second quarter I'm referring to. Did you feel that way? Did you feel like we were turning it over a little too much for us to have a great chance to be leading at that point?
Yeah, they had a stretch of scoring on multiple possessions and
Yep.
we weren't even getting shots up for
Right.
like 2 whole minutes. And so they're building their momentum and we're like, okay, slow down. We can do this. We've got this. It's not out of reach here. But yeah, and it wasn't like one person too. It was like everyone had at least one turnover.
Everyone was throwing the ball all over the place,
Yeah.
Lauren, and it was very
It
difficult
was
for a guy
horrible.
sitting watching a stream with no control. I'm like, what? Who is this team, and why are we throwing it all over this court
I
in Van
know.
Male Arena? What was I did not know what was going on there at all, Lauren.
I
Could
was
you?
on the bench watching, and then coach is like, Lauren, get in. And I'm like, okay, I know what I need to do. And then I turned it over. I'm like, all right, that's it. Starting now, no more.
And we did clean it up, right? So that stretch was
Happy
tough,
ending.
and that really was credit Carroll for playing great defense.
Yeah.
Um, After that game, like heading back south on the bus, did you guys appreciate and feel like that was a huge win when you beat the team that's kind of picked as your top challenger in their building? That's a huge one. Did you guys feel that when you were heading back?
Yeah. I feel like every single win at this point is one step closer to our
Right,
goals. And so, yeah, to be one step closer is great, especially when, you know, that was not our best performance to still be able to walk out and find a way to win. Because still, just like proving to ourselves that we are a mature team, that we can find a way to win this year as opposed to losing close games last year. So I think
right.
every game that we win, step closer to our goals and gives us more confidence. And I think that's really helpful in, performance in the future.
They don't have to be pretty. Look, I watched the whole women's game and I watched the whole men's game, and I don't know if I would call either game pretty. And both teams were in some trouble, and both teams found a
Yeah.
way to win. And conference games are not easy, especially on the road, and they're not going to be pretty most of the time. So I thought it was huge that both teams won. I
Yeah.
want to zoom out a little bit, Lauren, and just talk kind of career here for a second, because you're getting in some rarefied air here in tight land, because you're a 4-year starter, which just doesn't happen very often. There's not a ton of 4-year starters, and you're a 3-time first team all CCIW honoree. That doesn't happen very often. This season, you were a preseason All American. You're averaging 15 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. You're shooting 495, and the shots you take aren't easy. Like they are tough, contested turnaround mid range. They are off the dribble mid range. They are tough shots. Just I wanted to get your perspective here as you're looking at kind of what you've been part of here. And I guess the other thing is your 4-year record. So the teams you've been part of through yesterday are 67-26 overall and 40-10 in the CCIW, 40-10. And with perspective here, the previous years were dealing with Elise Knutson and Milliken and some other great teams.
Mhm.
So, like, as you look at your career here, Lauren, I mean, and look, I'm just going to tell you, when you're all done, people are going to look back and talk about the greatest player ever to play at Illinois Wesleyan, and they're going to bat around 3 or 4 names, and your name's going to be on that list. What's your appreciation here for your 4-year experience up to this point?
It's definitely been a lot of growth, a lot of ups and downs, but the most special part about it, I'd say, is like the senior class that we have now. We were there along with each other through it all. And obviously, Coach Smith and how she's got, I mean, you just don't find coaches that are getting their 500th win at one university,
Right.
not staying around for 20 plus years and having alumni make a video of all the memories that they've had. So knowing that they say, like, something about tradition. Basically, the tradition at Wesleyan is so great. And I knew coming in that part of coach's spiel recruiting was like, we don't hang banners for conference championships. Like, that's an expectation. That's a goal every single year to win. And when I look at other schools and see that, it Wesleyan does stand out in that way. And also, it is crazy to think back to freshman year, all the people, all the teammates that we've had, and we reference them all the time. Brooke Lansford just texted me last night, and she's like, I'm coming to games. Like, she's always watching, always texting, and there's so many. Okay, well, I mean, I'm not a tall post. I was a point guard
An
my whole,
undersized post.
yeah. So that alone, freshman year, was enough to make my head spin. I had never played post. I was told if you think you're tall in high school, you will not be tall in college. And I didn't think I was tall in high school.
You
And I
got even shorter.
really don't think I'm tall now. But there's just been so many coaches that have invested in our program, but then also, being a senior makes you think like, wow, I'm done with sports soon. And then it makes you look back to all the coaches you've ever had. Like I still have my AAU basketball coach texting me regularly after games, my high school basketball
Sure.
coach, and I still have like all my middle school coaches, their voices in my head. Like one of them would always say, every game is important, no game is special. And just every game coming in, same mindset, doesn't matter the opponent, your preparation. Or my other basketball coach was free throws and layups win games. Like if you lost the game, look at your free throws and your layups.
Right.
There's the answer.
It's a
And so
great
it's
point.
special to be able to just feel like, I mean, not this season, but this season is what it's all led to.
And as you think about the position you've been asked to play that you just mentioned, I wanted to talk about that because it is a unique situation. So did you say were you a point guard in high school? Is that what you
Yeah.
said? So
Mhm.
yeah, you're playing basically I guess I'd call it the four. We really don't have a five. You're playing the
Yeah.
four, and you jump center. I assume because you're the best leaper, and you win more than you lose on those tips. And your position, I always tell people I don't even know what I would call you, like a guard, a forward, a center. I just think you're an athlete that has been put on the basketball team or on a basketball floor and said, like, go make plays because that's what you do. Like, you get the ball and you have good handles and your elevation on your shot, whether it's a turnaround or just like a pull up from like 15 feet, your elevation's phenomenal. How did you learn to go from point guard to whatever this position is we're calling it? Like, what was that transition like early in your career here?
So as a freshman, I was not expecting playing time because, you're in college now. So I'm like, I want to play so bad. What's my best way to get on the court? And similarly in volleyball, I did it in high school and I wasn't great, but I was like, what position do we have the least of? I'm going to learn how to do that. And then maybe I can get on the court. So we didn't really have a whole lot of post presence. We had a lot of great 3-point shooters. So
Right.
I'm like, okay, probably specialize elsewhere. But it was kind of kind of embarrassing how I knew absolutely nothing. In my head, when I'd see posts, like they're always told to keep the ball above their head. And so I'm not getting the first month of the season. I'm trying to learn how to shoot with the ball above my head. And Coach B's like, Lauren, you don't have to do that. I'm like on the elbow, like this. Like I gotta learn how to do this. He's like, no, just shoot regular. So then I started realizing like maybe I don't need to be the textbook post, but I can fill the spot and I can learn the rotations and
Yeah.
how to be a presence without changing how I play basketball.
And you're a matchup problem for the other team because their post can't really chase you around. Like, so I know that I know you found ways to exploit that, right? When you have someone that's bigger and a little slower that's trying to chase you around, like how have you used that to your advantage as you've gotten to be a senior now?
We have a lot of offenses that space the floor. And so sometimes, I'm not really a back to the basket type of post.
Right. Not all the time. Sometimes you are.
Sometimes, why not?
Right.
But yeah, getting them out on the perimeter. We do one ISO play that's on the perimeter, and then we do one like dribble drive play where it's like pitch back, and that gets a nice downhill. But, I gotta not travel when we do that one.
And you every now and then you do shoot a three. So I know you're not known as maybe a 3-point shooter, but was it the WashU game, like a three from the left wing that was
Yeah,
am I thinking of that? Was that WashU game? You hit a huge three, right?
yeah.
So what's the decision? Is it just like in the moment if it's open, if it feels good? Because a lot of times you pass up on 3-point looks. What's the decision of when to let that thing fly?
Yeah, I think, like I said, since freshman year, it was kind of like you're looking around to your left and your right, and you're like, these are amazing 3-point shooters.
Right.
I mean, I I'm a solid 3-point shooter. Went to like the 3-point shootout at state in high
Yeah.
school. But yeah, but yeah, so I always think my percentage is so much higher inside. I'll focus on that,
Right.
or I used to think I'll focus on that and then, look to dish out to our specialized 3-point shooters. But as I've matured and had my college career, I've realized it's all about making the defense react to you. And if you can read the defense and then counter it, they have to change the way they guard you or you're going to keep scoring.
Absolutely.
So if I start, being a threat from the 3-point line, then they really got to close me out.
Right.
Then I can rip. Or if they sag, you know, 3 points.
Is one of your
So
specialized 3-point shooters. We would have to call Mallory a
yeah,
specialized because
I
there's
think
no
that'd be fair.
hesitation there, Lauren. Like when that ball gets to Mallory, if she's in a certain spot, it's going up, correct? She's
It
specialized.
it is insane, actually. We play pickup, and I usually guard Mal. My hand will be like fully in her face, and it goes in.
It's a high
I'm
release.
like,
You know what it is? She's tall, right? I think is she 5'10"?
yeah,
She's
yeah.
she's a couple inches taller than you,
Long
and she's
arms.
got that great it just goes up in a hurry, I feel like.
It takes like no time. And Ava too. We've developed this horrible habit of passing off the ball to Ava with 2 seconds on the shot clock.
Right.
Got to change. But it's hard because Ava magically gets a shot up, and most of the time it goes in because she's just
Yeah.
so fast.
She's quick, and I think she's in those moments. She's the one with the best skill set. I think her and Kate, someone that can quickly create and get like a jump shot.
Hmm.
It seems like those two. I would say you're great if you're in the paint in those situations, like against I guess it wasn't shot clock against Whitewater. You hit this huge 15-footer.
Oh.
And I don't know if you remember this, but I wanted to ask you about this. Is you let this thing go at Whitewater? It was during the stretch. You started chasing this thing. This ball hit nothing but the net inside the cylinder, swish, and you started running after it. Did you think you had missed that, or were you just like, in case it misses, I'm going to get this?
No, yeah, I think about that because the one time I got called for a line violation on my free throw, and I'm like, you cannot be doing that in college. Just, I'm like, I gotta trust my shot more. But well, the free throw was trust the shot, but for like the jump shots, I'm like, well, no, I trust my shot, but why would I not crash? Especially since got to develop these habits. Always
It's a
crash,
great
always
habit.
crash.
Very few people do that nowadays. Very few people. Like if you had missed, no one else but you was getting that rebound. You were already under the basket when it went through.
Yeah, so a little bit of both, I guess. But I did think it went
Yeah, it looked good
in.
as soon as you released it. Want to talk a little bit. Let's talk school for a second. So tell me, like, what's your degree going to be in, and what's next? Like, what do you plan to be doing next year?
I am a biology major,
Ooh, that doesn't sound
a
easy.
philosophy minor, and I applied to PA schools in the spring. I applied to like 4 or 5 programs in the Midwest, waiting to hear back about interviews now. And then if I don't hear back, then I'll reapply this spring and apply to more like 20 programs.
Gotcha. So
So
bio
PA school
major.
is
That
2 years of grad school.
bio major seems like tougher than being an insurance major. Like, I mean, I'm not saying it was totally easy, but I could not have done being a biology major. What's that been like trying to balance? Like, I knew plenty of biology majors, and that is very difficult to juggle sports with that. How have you juggled your athletic career with school?
It's like you're basically up against the clock. There's only so many hours in the day. And in addition to like the actual biology courses, I need to take these prerequisite courses for PA school. So like chemistry, you don't
Ugh,
technically have to take chemistry classes as
ugh,
a bio major, but for PA school, I had to take Gen Chem, organic chemistry too.
ugh.
And those are not my strong suits. But the classwork, you just get in the library quite a bit. Work, I tend to do homework on the bus to and from the game. Not because I like to, but
Because you got to.
you gotta. And then also just trying to prepare your resume or application, really. So for PA school, they put a lot of emphasis on patient contact and the hours you get before applying to PA school because, it's shorter education than for to be a doctor. So they want to make sure you've had the patient contact experience and then you can get your education and go out and be a provider. So, for example, 2 summers ago, I needed to get some patient contact hours because I can't work during the year because of basketball. But I needed to be certified in order to do this.
Sure.
But it takes like 6 months to certify as like a CNA or an EMT. But someone who was on the soccer team told me about this program. It's like a 17-day EMT program. You go to Indiana, you live there for the time, and like 8 hours in the
Ugh,
classroom, and then 4 hours of like skill work. So I did that during May, and then I was able to work as an EMT for like an ambulance company over the summer.
that's great.
So,
Yeah, your courses are like way
yeah.
way tougher than mine were in the early 90s, Lauren. I have to tell you, like I think I had a semester where I had like acting for non-majors. I know I had theory and practice of basketball with Coach
Mhm.
Bridges.
I do
I
actually have that on my schedule for next semester.
You do.
Ron
You have
coaching
the
basketball.
Coach Ride. So I didn't know that still existed. So Professor Rose teaches theory and practice of basketball. Is that correct?
Professor Rose, yes.
Well, before you like when you get into that class, let's talk again because I'm gonna like throw some. I'm gonna load some questions at you that you can ask
Yeah.
throughout the semester. I'm gonna pull out some game film of the men and have you ask certain questions about certain moments. Can we agree to do that when that class
Yes,
happens?
that sounds amazing.
That's a very crafty move by you taking theory and practice of basketball as a second semester senior because that's exactly when I took it. So this it's good to
Really?
see that some things stay the same. This is
Were you
beautiful.
also in embryology and biochemistry
Oh
too?
God, no. No. Oh God, no. No. I mean, I couldn't even take it. Like calculus was I was in over my head in calculus. I had to like shift to finite math.
Oh
There
yeah.
was no chance I was taking any kind of biology or chemistry, Lauren. So like
Astronomy lab or what? What'd
I
you
took
do?
astronomy. I took astronomy because I had to have a science thing.
Hmm.
Not to go into detail, but this guy, Myles Epperson, who I lived at Dodds Hall with, he was such a terrible influence on me that it's as close as I ever came in my life to getting a D. I got a C. I think it's the only C I ever got, to be fair. But it wasn't my fault. It was this guy, Myles Epperson. And he was a terrible influence on me. And he had me focusing on things that weren't studying, Lauren. So
Did you put
Just
that asterisk on your transcript?
yeah, just
Not my fault.
you have to associate with the right kind of people is what I learned. And I will send this link to Myles Epperson. But yeah, it's all about, and I know you've been around good people, which is why you're so successful. I did want to ask you a little bit too, as we just a couple more things as we start to wind down. As far as what's up next in the season, so you've got Saturday, you're at home against Elmhurst. I think
Yeah,
that's a women men double header against the Blue Jays. Then you have a Tuesday game at home against Chicago. They're usually really tough. And then you go to San Antonio, Texas to play Trinity and ETBU. Those are both good teams. So, how do you look at this next stretch? I guess let's just focus on that Elmhurst game. What do we know about the Blue Jays? You're probably not deep into prep yet, but what do we know about Elmhurst as we start to focus on them?
Elmhurst has had a coaching change this year. And actually, one of the coaches that I referenced before, my previous AAU coach, is now assistant at
Very
Elmhurst.
cool.
So I get to see him. But I think they're really, building a program over there. They're pretty young, but they're pretty scrappy too. So this week leading up to that, we don't have a game Wednesday, obviously. So this is a great time to focus back in on ourselves for a bit before scouting them. So, like looking at film of our press, practicing, different defenses in our offense. So, I think having this time before the conference game, but then the non-conference games too, like you said, which will be good competition. This week will be a great practice time.
And you know what I think, what I would like you guys to focus on, maybe you could talk to Coach
Yeah.
Smith about this. I believe if we could limit turnovers to 12 or fewer, I don't think we would lose. What do you think about this? Could we focus on the taking care of the ball, good passes?
Mhm.
We want to gamble, right? We want to take good gambles. But don't you agree, Lauren? 12 or fewer turnovers. Think of the math. Who's going to beat us?
Like,
Who's going to beat us? What do you think about that?
I love that idea.
Tough.
How should we instill this in our practice? Do you have a drill
I
in mind?
mean, I'm just a podcaster, but
It's a mindset.
I think you have a lot of influence with the head coach, and you could be like, "Hey, look, I was on the QCast, and this guy had an idea that we should not turn the ball over."
Yeah,
I
very
don't know
cute.
what the drills are. I don't know how we do that, Lauren. But if we could take care of the ball really, really well all the time,
Hmm.
we would shoot so many more field goals than the opponent because
Right.
we're generating turnover. There's a math. I think I learned this in my finite math. This is a good
Did you go to class?
I did. I went to class and I did well in finite math, and it wasn't calculus. But if you guys could focus on that, I would appreciate it. And then what about Chicago? So I think you've played Chicago every year that you've been here, I believe. What do we know anything at all yet about December 17th against the Maroons?
Not a whole lot. I know they're ranked 22nd right now, I think. So, gonna be competitive, but like any other game we show up to, we're gonna come in prepared and ready to limit turnovers.
There we go. Boom. That's the keys to the
Does
game,
make you think like we are not playing at our best right now. There's areas, multiple areas where we could get better.
right?
Like the ceiling is just so high for our team because of the talent we have. And every day during practice, every game that we play is just inching up towards that ceiling.
You're right. And to think like you're right. Haven't played our best. 8-0, 2-0. So haven't tripped up at all. There's some things that you can clean up. And I know you guys can probably make a list of two or three things where like if we could do these things better, but to be sitting here 8-0 and be able to say that,
Yeah.
do you pay attention at all to the national scene? You know, like I had Meg Barber, the head women's coach from NYU, the defending champs on.
Yeah.
Have you ever pulled up a stream ever and watched NYU play? Or do you know like the other teams nationally that are getting a lot of pub or ranked highly? Or do you just focus on you guys?
We talk about it on the bus a decent amount, but I know my roommates, Mel and Kate, they'll watch games because, I got to do homework and stuff.
Because you're the
I
bio
usually don't
major.
watch many sports at all, like Bears,
Don't watch
Or
the Bears. They're on at 3 o'clock, and I'm going to be so sad again by 6 o'clock. So yeah, you're fine not watching the
I
Bears
don't
for
get why
now.
people do it to themselves. It's like
I've been doing it 53
horrible.
years, Lauren. It's a long story. But anyway, so you don't have time to watch sports because you're like
Well,
you have to
I can
study.
make time, but yeah,
I hear it.
I don't really watch their games. But I was curious to watch the NYU coach because obviously a successful program.
She's impressive. She's
Yeah.
impressive. Like she's an
Right.
alum. She was a great player there,
Yep.
and she's done them. Like they're great. They're great. They're you think of like the way WashU plays. They're similar to WashU, but they're better. That's they're similar to WashU, but their guards are better and their bigs are better.
I
So
remember them having some really big girls my freshman year.
they're great. They're amazing. And I told the NYU coach that my dream this year is if we could play them, that would
Hmm.
mean that somewhere we've advanced very deeply in the tournament if we're playing NYU. And I
Yeah.
think we could play with them. I've said this on the QCast. I think we could play with them because we would cause them problems too.
Right.
Like we would cause them problems handling the ball. They would have to guard us. And if we shot it a little bit, I think we could play with anybody, including NYU. And I would just love to see us have the type of season where we could have that kind of matchup, whether it's NYU or all these other great teams in the tournament. And it'll be fun. But I'm getting way ahead of myself because look, if we don't do well in the CCIW,
Yeah.
we won't
Yeah.
play in the tournament.
But it's like
Um,
the seasons just brought out the peak competitiveness. It's like I just
right.
want to keep challenging our team because so far we've been stepping up to the plate and we plan to continue to do that. And it's uh, we talk a lot about our strength of schedule. It's
It's
great to be
crazy.
able to play skilled teams with skilled coaches and challenge ourselves.
Yeah, you look at some of that top 25 and I click on their schedule and it's like, who are these teams? And so
Yeah.
what I love about following you guys is I can watch you play Hope and Calvin and I know they're good. And then I can watch you play WashU and watch you play Whitewater and watch you play Carroll. So like we know where we are because we play good teams. I think the teams that are playing nobody right now, well, we don't, well, who knows? Maybe they are great, but
Right.
they play a good team, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, that's how they look. So I love our schedule. I wanted to ask you just a couple more things. Your sister's on the team,
Yeah.
correct? So Mackenzie Huber is a sophomore. Tell us a little bit about kind of Mackenzie Huber as a hooper.
So Mackenzie took, a different path. She went to Carthage to play basketball her freshman year. And she transferred at the semester to come to Wesleyan. And it worked out great. Like Ellie Cahill was on our team, and her roommate transferred and left. And I'm like, I love Ellie. Ellie is like a little sister to me. She should be roommates with my little sister. So Mackenzie comes and they're roommates, and they both join AGD and like inseparable. Mackenzie's loving basketball. Mike Wagner was a big help in helping her transfer. Because at first it started off like, is this even possible?
Right,
Because obviously we're both in the CCIW.
right. There's some kind
I
of rule
guess like
you got to
two
sit.
years ago,
Yeah,
they had just passed this rule that you could do that. And Wags is like, I actually think it's a bad rule because that like should not be able to happen, but it can. And I'm like, okay, perfect. I mean, she's only a freshman. She doesn't know their deepest, darkest secrets at Carthage, but
right,
yeah, so she transferred and is loving it here. She's elementary ed, so she's in the classroom, which is another part of why she transferred is like going through school in Wisconsin, you're licensed in Wisconsin, then you have to take like this
right.
test to be licensed in Illinois. And she was struggling to find schools that she could, because they have you find your own placement schools, whereas Wesleyan, they're like, we set you up at this school at this time. So two of my older siblings actually also came to Wesleyan for education and loved it and was set up really successfully.
That's
Both
great.
their jobs now. So she knew how great the education program was here too. But yeah, it is really special, especially my parents love it.
Oh, I'm
So
sure for them it makes life a lot easier. By the way, when you were getting recruited, what was like you decided between Illinois Wesleyan and like who? Was there a second or third school that you were really close on at the very end?
I was all over the place because I didn't know if I wanted to just really focus on studying, future career, big school. Didn't know if I wanted to walk on D1. I was getting talked to a bit about track because
Right.
I'm probably better at track, or maybe it's just easier to be recruited at track because it's so like black and white what your
Right.
times are.
Sure.
Like it's not as subjective as basketball where it's like, no,
Right.
we have enough people. But yeah, I recruiting, I would not want to go through that again. I
All
was
over
like
the place.
messaging people on Twitter, talking to people, but ultimately like facing a decent amount of rejection. I
Sure.
know not to call out the program, but Wash U, the coach at the time, said like, "No, sorry, like we have guards like you on the team already." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay."
You're so yeah. So basically WashU said Lauren Huber wasn't good enough to play for WashU. Is that am I summarizing that correctly?
Yeah, or yeah, they they had
Well,
people like me already. But
I think we won that one. I think we came out okay on that one.
and my cousin, he plays basketball at Bradley, and Elise Knutson, has been in our conference, and we're always saying, she's legit. She's a great player.
Right.
Transfers to ISU. He's like, wow, yeah, she is. She is legit.
She's still
Like,
a great player at ISU. Right.
yeah, like she's just a good player is a good player no matter what scene you put her in.
Good basketball is good basketball, Lauren. Right.
Yeah.
That's what my friend Coach Zimmerman at Emory men's basketball says that good basketball is good basketball. Elise Knutson's proved that out. She was an All
Mhm.
American at Millikan. She's at Illinois State and she's playing great. And so
Yeah, they're
sometimes the levels are very, very thin.
yeah.
Um, wanted to just the holidays are coming up, so we're gonna have a little break there. Of course, you got basketball, you got holidays, and then you got to get on a plane to go to San Antonio. But any big plans or anything you're most looking forward to around the upcoming holidays?
No, I think probably not having classes.
That's what I would look forward to.
Being
That being
able
an
to
insurance
just
major.
really, because we do watch a decent amount of film and, you could always watch more. The coaches are so of it, like they make time for you. And if you can come in to watch film and ask them questions, they're going to be answering your questions and
Sure.
be getting better. So I'm looking to do more of that, doing it a bit, but I'd love to do it more and really
Well,
dive into like our past games because, November is just a crazy time. Like tournament, Friday,
lots of
Saturday
games.
game,
Yeah.
and oh, can't watch film on that game because we've got to play tomorrow.
Right.
Really kind of dissecting what we've been doing.
And
And, we just get to hang out because everybody else is gone.
do
Campus
you
is empty. It's just our team.
is there
That's it.
anything you do during the holidays, like when you're at home for these few days without basketball? Is there anything you do to like make sure that you're in shape when you come back? Not that
Yeah.
like you're a 53-year-old that's going to be out of shape in 2 days, but like, do you run? Do you play? Do you do anything? Or if you take a few days off, are you just okay? How does that work?
I run. I run quite a bit. I do usually like 2 runs a week, 3 days of like a little upper body circuit, 3 days of like core. That's kind of how I maintain,
Right, you're ready to go.
try to be ready to
Okay.
RMJ.
You get to San Antonio, Texas. You're feeling great. Final question for you. Asked you a little bit about this when we had the Brady Bunch big group thing
Yeah.
on, but final question about Division 3 is we'll have some people tuning into this QCast that are Division 3 fans in general, maybe not tied to Illinois Wesleyan. Um, how would you what would you say your favorite parts of the Division 3 experience would be? Like for anyone out there that's tuning in, that's trying to make a decision on where they want to go to school and they're deciding between some options, help us understand what you have loved about NCAA Division 3 and being a student athlete.
My mom's always drilled in my head like everything in moderation, too much of anything is a bad thing. And to me, obviously, you have highs and lows in basketballs. There's injuries, there's days you're hot, there's days you're cold, there's days you get to play, days you don't. Like everyone has their own paths. But to be able to be like, I'm an athlete, I'm a student, I'm a teammate, have this whole like, I'm more than just my stat line, I think is really great, especially, that's able to happen maybe more at a Division 3 level where there's not money on the line, where you're not fighting for scholarships. I think it, I think that I would find it exhausting to be, thinking about the portal so much and thinking about
Right.
scholarships. And then, I mean, I don't know experiences at D1 and D2 levels, but I could imagine that leads to some tension.
Sure.
So I think that to be able to know also that people are getting minutes because they should be on the court, not because they're a scholarship player.
Right.
I think that also makes practices more competitive because it's not like only these people, we're only going to play these people because we are paying them to be here. It's work your butt off and then you can earn whatever.
Right.
There's obviously that at Division 1 and 2 also. But I think coaches too are very willing to let you miss practice to go to a career fair, things like that. And also, you just have more time to yourself. So, like, I brought up that you can go into coach's office and watch film with them, but that's not like mandatory. You have to do this 3 hours every week.
Right.
And that's kind of what's also grown with our program from my freshman year to my senior year. It's like freshman year, we did like a couple lifts a week in the fall. This year, we did lifts, pickup, 6 a.m. workout every week. But like it wasn't required. It was all just like, we want to get better.
Sure.
Like, let's get better. So I think that helps eliminate burnout too,
Yeah.
for me at least, knowing that like I'm doing this because I want to. And if next year I don't want to, I could step away from the program and I could, you know, focus on what my priority is. So I think at Division 3, you can really set your priorities and live your life accordingly. And I think that helps with motivation, with mindset, being a better person, athlete, student.
It's very well said. I think the perspective, the perspective and the balance at the Division 3 level is pretty special. It's not to say the other levels
Yeah.
are bad or anything, but the balance you have between being a student and being an athlete is it's real in Division 3, and it's pretty cool. Um, I'll just say a few things, and then I'm going to give you a chance to close us out on just any final thoughts you have for people tuning into this episode of the QCast. But like I said, Lauren, I mean, you're closing in on some pretty rarefied Illinois Wesleyan women's basketball air here with everything you've accomplished. Three-time first teamer. Spoiler alert: I'm pretty sure you're going to be a four-time first teamer. I'm pretty sure you're going to be an All-American, and you have a great chance to have a very special season here. And it's been such a fun season already with so many cool things that have happened and big games already just through 8 games. And it's a pleasure to watch you play. I always say about this team that you guys are so the saying I keep saying is like this team never lets you down. And what I mean by that is not that you're going to win every game, but when you guys are down 9 with 7 minutes to go, there's no question that you guys are going to be doing absolutely everything you can to try to win that game, and the effort's going to be there and the focus is going to be there. And I think you're always in the middle of that. While we have different people that step up every game, I feel like the one constant is Lauren Huber. You always know that Lauren's going to be in the middle of the stretch run and the things happening, and everything kind of feeds from that. So I give you huge kudos for being a leader, being smart, being competitive, being a hard worker. I think you set a great example for everyone around you. And, you're the kind of player that sort of can be the poster child for the program. We have a lot of people on the team I could say that about, but, put a poster up there and say, Lauren Huber is what Division III is all about, what the Titans are all about. So it's an honor to have you on here, Lauren. And I'm going to give it to you to close us out. You're going to have some Titan fans tuning in, some D3 fans. What would you leave people with today, Lauren, on the QCast?
Well, thank you for all your kind words. Um, yeah, I think it is very special to be in a position that I am in and just, working hard, and the hard work does pay off and get noticed. But as far as role model, we have these two girls that sit at the end of our bench, and they come in with their number 5 jerseys on and sometimes braid their hair. And I actually got to go watch one of them play the other week. And just reminding yourself, like, basketball is really a game, but it teaches you so much. And it just sets you up so well, gives you how to work together, how to persevere, how to just push yourself past what you think you could ever do. So I think that as much as I give to the program, it gives it all right back to me. And it is just a special thing to be a part of. But ultimately, final words would be that we are definitely looking to retire with rings this season, and that our vision is clear, and every day we are going to work hard to get one step closer to that goal.
And it's a realistic goal. I'll just say this as I've watched a lot of Illinois Wesleyan women's teams, and the great teams are all different. It's hard to compare them. It's hard to compare this to the 2012 national championship team, but the elements are there to do some really big things this season. And that all starts with a CCIW title, and that's going to be a grind. But you're off to a great start. And really appreciate you being on here, Lauren. And for everyone listening, of course, this is season 5, episode 21. We've had a big focus the last week and a half on the Titan women because of what their record is, but also how they're doing it and how they're playing. And there's a lot of great stories. And so we'll leave an open invitation. I invited Kate and Ava and Lauren on here. And open invitation for any of the rest of the crew that would like to come on the QCast. I would love to chat with everybody. So Lauren, thank you so much. Look forward to watching you against Elmhurst on Saturday. You have a great holiday, and I will see you at a Titan game sooner than later. Okay.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for your time and your
Thanks, Lauren.